You're listening to the Perth Property Show, Australia's only weekly property podcast by West Australian experts for West Australian listeners. Catch your latest episode every Monday at 7 a.m.
Rise and shine, Perth. My name's Trent Fleskens, your host of the Perth Property Show, where every week we get Perth's biggest experts into the studio to chat on their favourite property topic. Today we're talking about exploring the different motivations of sellers, and especially in this market in 2019, we still have to ask ourselves, whilst it is balancing out, why is the seller selling? Do they have to sell now? And if they do, why? To help us with that conversation, we've got a real estate agent who is pretty much selling the most volume in Western Australia. It is Adam Naumovski from the agency. Adam, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us, Trent. Always a pleasure.
Adam, you see so many sellers every year, right? So I think you would have the best perspective of all the reasons under the sun as to why someone's selling and what's going to get them to sell at the price we want to buy for. Let's put our buyer's hat on today. I know you're a real estate agent on the seller's side.
Yeah, I'm always on the seller side, but I'll put the buyer's hat on.
Exactly right. Let's do a public service today and try and help the buyers understand why we're selling and what we can do to maybe get that price we want. So let's start off with the reasons why you're seeing people sell in 2019.
I suppose the first one that we're seeing a little bit of at the moment, which is unfortunate, is mortgage stress due to changes in financial situations, whether it's loss of job or income drop. That's one of the reasons that we're seeing at the moment. And obviously not that they're wanting to sell, but the fact that they need to sell.
Well, it's good for us to know as a buyer,
as a
isn't
buyer,
it?
that's probably the best seller that you can have, especially if people are selling in this market for that reason. We all know that the market has declined across WA as a whole over the last couple of years. So when the average time frame for someone to move into a house and sell is about 5 or 6 years, if they're selling in this market due to that circumstance, well, then it's a perfect buying opportunity for somebody.
And if you're in that situation where there is mortgage stress, the bank probably has something to say about it as well, don't they?
Yeah, and they'll have the bottom dollar on what the seller can accept to clean the slate and move on.
Yep. Can we have that conversation as a buyer? On your level, with your responsibility, are you allowed to tell us?
I won't, regardless of whether the legal ramifications, I simply won't do that. I'm going to be working in the best interest of my seller and trying to achieve them the highest possible price. So, no, I would never disclose that sort of information. Some agents may. If it's being sold directly from the bank to the public, then yes, we can disclose that. But in the event that we're still working for the vendor, then no, I wouldn't be disclosing that.
Okay, that's fine. We need to work with that as a buyer.
Yeah.
What about another reason that people are selling?
Yeah, simply moving on. What we get a lot of in our
Upsizes?
areas is upsizes. Yeah, they've bought the first home slightly smaller, had the one kid, can usually manage, second kid's coming along or has come along, they want the backyard space. They might relocate areas to get a bit more yard or be closer to a certain school is another one. So upsizes is one that we experience quite a bit of.
Are they hard ones for you to work with because they have expectations?
They are definitely a bit harder. There's no financial urgency to sell the home. Also, they may have paid a premium 5 years ago, and now to get them to meet the market today can be a little bit difficult, especially in certain areas where there's been quite a big drop in price.
Because they need that money to move up.
Move up, correct. Now, a lot of them who have knocked a fair bit of the mortgage off might be in a little bit more of a financial position to just move it on and just to get on with their life, where some of them are hanging on to that price because otherwise they simply can't do the exercise of upsizing to the area that they want without achieving a certain price.
Do you sometimes have a situation where you're trying to match a buyer and a seller, or you're trying to say, look, the buyer can do this to the seller. We've also been able to find you this property. It's all going to work.
All the time. And that's the way we've actually been having a bit of success with the upsizers to get them to sell the first home is, okay, look, you might be taking $30,000 or $40,000 less on the sale of your home, but let's actually negotiate the $30,000, $40,000 on the home that you're going to buy.
Let's help you on the buying side as well.
And let me negotiate that for you as well.
Yep.
I'm going to do the research. How much did the sellers pay for it? Where do we think it sits? Talk to the other agent. And then if we can make it work on the purchase, well, then you can then sacrifice it. So it effectively works out to the exact same.
2 for 1, hey?
Yeah.
You got Adam Naumovski selling your property, and then you got this guy
if
also
you sell
buying.
your house to me, I can give you that service to help you buy as well.
That's great. What about more personal issues as well?
Sad one
Death.
to see. Yeah.
Sometimes we see public trustee sales.
Yeah, look, with
that can give us some information as a buyer.
Public trustee sales for sure. I mean, if you're a buyer and you see a public trustee sale, well, then just go for it. Yeah, if the property is of interest, because the bank's just going to cover what they need to and hardly ever meets market value or true market worth. It's going to be sold to the highest bidder.
Yep.
Best ones to look for as a buyer, no doubt about that. When it comes to unfortunate circumstances like death, usually the people have been in the house for quite a long time.
You can tell it's been living that way for a while if you walk in there.
And obviously the mortgage or what they paid for it 30, 40 years ago to what they're selling it for now, they
isn't
can
a factor.
No, it isn't. It isn't. That's a good one to look for buyers as well, because the mortgage stress isn't there, or what they're owing on the home isn't a factor.
And it's a bit awkward to talk about, I guess, but on the buyer's side, on our side, those are the ones that we look for. You know, we look for public trustees because there's no emotion involved. Mm-hmm. We look for the ones where we can get something out of the agent, or we can just tell because the house is very unkept. Yep. And with RP data, we can see, look, this hasn't been sold since 1964. Right. And it's probably, an unfortunate situation where in this emotional time for a family, money is probably not the most important thing to them.
Exactly right. In that circumstance, it's not. And usually it isn't. And going back to what you said there about RP data, now with the information that's available to buyers at the click of a button is amazing in comparison to what it was 10 years ago. So you can jump on RP data, realestate.com. What did these guys pay for it? How long have they been there? You can then sit down and calculate how much interest have they paid, what do they pay for stamp duty, what does the home owe them, are they looking just
what do they need to sell
for?
Are
they looking just for a clean break, just to get out and move on, or are they looking to make a slight profit, or where does that sit?
Adam, you've given away all my secrets. But those are the things, right? As a buyer, we would need to know, are we wasting our time? If we have this information from RP data, it's on the web from 449, and we can see they bought it for 435 or 430. Add stamp duty, that's your 449. You can see these guys just trying to get that clean.
And then they usually got to pay agent fees and advertising on top of that. So that's just they're looking for a clean break and they want to move on, And
that might be one where you can recognise, look, I'm going to leave this for a while because they're just going to be too hard to negotiate with. It's not that they want to sell straight away and we just go, look, let's leave it.
Yeah, no, you've hit the nail on the head there. And we're seeing a lot of those types of sales in the current market where upsizing or downsizing, they're just trying to get the clean break and start with, if they might have been paying a mortgage for the last 5 or 6 years, they don't even take that in consideration. All right, let's just move on. Upsize, we want to get into the new family home. We'll just cut it off and move on.
What about when people are splitting up, divorce? It's a tough time with the family.
Yeah.
As a buyer, we're probably not going to realise that. It's one of those ones you're probably going to protect as a seller.
We would,
But are there any considerations for us? Is it going to make it a bit harder?
No, I don't think it's going to make it harder. Every circumstance is different when it comes to divorce, and it's a bit of a tough one to deal with, I suppose, because as agents, we're usually dealing with two sellers rather than one.
Yeah.
And that's husband and wife who
usually
emotional. Aren't talking, so we're the man in the middle with them. Plus, we're trying to negotiate the best offer for both of them. One might just want the clean break and see you later, just want to get out and move on with my life. The other might be hanging on to price. Yeah. And sometimes those expectations can vary,
So when you get a buyer come through saying, I'll give you 400, the one party says, yes, no worries. The other one says, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's a very tough one to deal with. It's case by case, really, when it comes to that. Sometimes both of them want a clean break and want to move on. It just depends on, sometimes we need to be counsellors almost. It depends on the breakup, which one's bitter, which one's not. Are they both happy to move on? Are they not? And then that's going to determine what price the property will be eventually sold for.
But I think what we need to recognise as a theme today is that if people are selling in 2019, it probably still is in a lot of suburbs because there is a reason and not because they think they're going to make a whole bunch of money. Yeah. It's not per se a seller's market right now. It might not be a buyer's market in a lot of suburbs now. We're starting to see a lot of suburbs from the western suburbs move. But it's still not a boom time in 2019.
Yep.
So as buyers, I think we still have that in our back pocket. We still recognise that if people are selling it for some reason, there's motivation.
And you always want a motivated seller. If you're a buyer, you want to be finding a motivated seller.
Exactly. So to tie this conversation up, are there any ways that buyers can probably negotiate a little bit or understand there's a bit of time involved that you've seen where, look, those guys have done all right?
Yeah, most definitely. I think research is the biggest key right now. Get all the facts. Get as much information as you can from the seller who you're going to purchase off, reasons to selling.
Could we even, as a buyer, come to you as a selling agent and say, look, we think it actually is worth 480, not 500, and it's for these reasons. Can we say, look, these are the piece of data. Can we show that to the seller?
Most definitely, and we're probably doing that in the back end as well. At the end of the day, I'm a firm believer of your house is worth what someone's prepared to pay for it at the time that you're trying to sell it. So if the market keeps coming to you with 480, 490, 480, well, chances are that's probably what your house is worth in the current market. So the buyers are always welcome to make offers and always welcome to submit as much information as they want to the seller, most definitely.
And finally, what about if we understand that a lot of sellers may want to get out quickly, does it help to have maybe pre-approved finance or shorter settlement times or not subject to sale?
Not subject to sale is the biggest one. Look, and we are seeing a lot more subject to sale offers being accepted in this market simply because there's not many better options out there. Subject to sale, in my opinion, you're always going to pay a little bit more as well for the seller to accept something like that. It needs to be more attractive to them cash is obviously king. Going in with cash offers in this market with a quick 21-day settlement, then wow, you definitely
You could probably negotiate with that.
100%. You're going to be able to negotiate with that. And even what I don't see a lot of, which I'm surprised we don't, buyers saying they've got pre-approved finance. Well, how about bringing your conditional approved finance?
Bring us the piece of paper.
Bring it in. Here you go. When you're making your offer, just so the sellers are aware, here's my conditionally approved finance.
Yep.
It's pretty much as good as done, yeah?
Yeah.
Subject to evaluation and whatnot. That's going to help your offer and help you get maybe a bit of a discount on the price as well.
Adam, that was a really good one, a really quick one, but I think we got some good value out of it.
Most definitely.
Thanks for coming in. We'll have you in soon.
Thanks, Trent.
Now, Jenny Gauci has just stepped in the room. She's Bull Creek's #1 real estate agent. Jenny, thanks for popping in.
Thank you for having me, Trent. It's been a pleasure coming in, and I look forward to talking about Bull Creek.
It's a bit of a sleepy suburb in a lot of ways, I think. It's been around for a long time. It's got a very strong market in fundamentals from the schools and the freeway, but we don't hear a lot about it in the news. Maybe we can get some enlightenment this morning.
Well, Bull Creek, you're right. I call it the sleeping giant. A lot of people didn't know where Bull Creek was up to about a few years ago until the train line came in. Bull Creek became Bull Creek in the 60s and then didn't become well known until the middle of the 70s, around 1976 I think it was, when the freeway opened up. Yeah. And all of a sudden it flourished as a suburb. People knew where it was and they were coming, and that's what developed very rapidly.
So we're coming down the freeway. We'll turn left onto Leach Highway.
That's it.
And then is it a right into Corell Ave?
That's right. You've got the shopping centre there with big Target shopping centre, and then you've got all Bull Creek. I mean, if you turn right, you go to Bateman and University, but turning left is that little pocket. And it's so close to everything. It's only 11 kilometres to the city, 17 kilometres to the airport, and we're close to the beach. Yeah. So quite central.
When you think about all the work that's happened along Leach Highway and Roe Highway, I mean, that's the thing, it's between Leach and Roe, isn't it? So you could pop onto Roe, go straight to the airport without a traffic light, really, couldn't you?
It takes me 15 minutes when there's no traffic. But no, it's a great location. And like I said, a lot of people didn't realise until they caught the train, and then 2 stops from the city, they're at Bull Creek Station. And they're thinking, wow, how close is this?
Well, you're pretty close to Garden City then as well, because when I go to Garden City, I'll actually go via Leach Highway just because it's less lights. So you turn right to get to Garden City, but if you were just left there on the corner, that's Bull Creek.
Correct. Bull Creek, we find the main draw card in the Bull Creek are the school zones. The school zones, it's a family-orientated area. So you'll probably find 80% are all families, even the owner-occupied, and even the 20% that are rented. We have a huge rent roll. So most of our tenants are all families who can't afford to buy, but they want to be there for the schools.
Let's talk about that. Most of the time when you think about Rossmoyne Senior High and Willetton Senior High, these are the top performing schools in Western Australia on the public side, and generally massive schools too. Great numbers. There's thousands of kids go there, but obviously well resourced. When you think about your schools, you think Rossmoyne. Well, the kids from Rossmoyne must go to Rossmoyne, or the kids that live in Willetton must go to Willetton. The catchment zones are actually quite wider than that, and it includes Bull Creek on both ends, doesn't it?
It does. I don't think a lot of people realise it has 3 school zones in Bull Creek. Now you've got north of Parry Avenue is all Rossmoyne High School zone, which is very, very sought after. We have the Willetton Pocket, which is a dual Leeming Willetton Pocket, and then we have the Leeming, just Leeming. Now, the other school that's come up in a big way over the last probably 3 years, and that's Bertha Primary. Now, Bertha Primary is very sought after because it has Mandarin-speaking classes.
Oh, wow.
So my Asian market are very much sought after. So a lot of my buyers come and they say, we want the Bertha Primary School and Willetton High, or the Bertha and the Rossmoyne High. They know what they want, and if they walk into a property, it's really, really weird, because if they walk into a property that's Leeming, they'll walk out, no matter how nice a property is. So that's how sought after and how important the school zones are to them.
It just shows the different cultures, right? I understand that a large percentage of the ethnic background from Bull Creek is either coming from that Chinese Mandarin background or from the Sri Lankan background, and both of those ethnicities very studious, obviously, very good performers in terms of schools, and clearly what they're doing is they're valuing the cost of putting their money into the house, knowing they're going to give their kids great education, rather than spending 25, or if they've got 2 or 3 kids, 50, 70 grand a year on
Correct.
private education.
That's right. You'll find that the overseas market, the Sri Lankans and the Asian market, will put the money into the property more so than spend it to go to All Saints, for instance. All Saints is also a very, very high-performing school, high school in the area. It's a private school, but a lot of people will not pay that $15,000, $18,000 per child to send them to school. They prefer to go to Rossmoyne and put the money into their property.
Yeah, well, I guess there's no guarantee on a return from a private school education, but when we're talking property, you'd hope that over time you put that money in and there'll be some appreciation value. So.
Well, yes, from the real estate point of view, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
No, we have a lot of people that just look for the school zone there, and we find that the school zone, if we have a property that's priced right, it will go very quickly.
Okay, so let's talk, perfect segue, price. Let's talk about those price points. What sort of properties can you buy? I'm assuming most of them are the 3x1s or the 4x2s or the 4x1s because they're that sort of vintage of double brick home. What are we paying to get into these properties?
Well, Trent, it's a good question. The median price at the moment is around $730,000, which is not your first home buyer.
No, it's more than most people would expect.
That's exactly right. Our price varies from probably a small villa around the $420,000 to $430,000 to your mansions in Brockman Park, which is about $1.5 million.
Yeah, wow.
You'll find Brockman Park is a small estate, which is the latest development in Bull Creek. It'd be around about the 20 to 25 years old, and it's very sought after. Not many properties there that would sell under $1 million. So most of those properties are very nice properties and very sought after, but they're getting a little bit tired as well. As a property gets to around 14 years old, it needs a bit of renovations.
Are you seeing that happen throughout the suburb?
Oh, definitely. A lot of people, because the land value is so high, the properties being 35 to 40 years old, you find the value in the property is all in the land, not so much in the house, unless it's had major renovations. If a property is originally 35, 40 with nothing done to it, it's virtually bulldoze and land value, which a lot of people are doing. They're wanting the big blocks, the 700 square metre blocks, where they can build their dream home, have the pool and have the backyard for the kids to play in.
And that's the average size you find in Bull Creek? It's around the 700
Yes,
mark?
around the 720. There is a few that's slightly bigger, but they get snapped up very quickly. The large blocks get snapped up because of the fact that, you can subdivide some of them.
Well, let's segue straight into that. Subdivision is always a hot topic for us at the Perth Property Show. Bull Creek, not a recognised development area. It's a family stronghold.
Correct.
However, there are a couple of opportunities there. I guess we can talk about them. Corner lots, if we're above 700 square metres there should be opportunities. And also, you've still got some big lots.
Yes, you have, Trent. You're correct in saying the corner lots, they've all been snapped up, and there's so much development happening in Bull Creek because of the corner lots being subdivided. There's already homes being built in the last several years. When they had the interim policy, a lot of them took advantage of that and have already built homes. Others have already got applications in there, and we're selling quite a few homes for the corner R20. I've just sold one recently in the Rossmoyne High School zone, which was a 900-odd square metre block that you could retain the home. So you could retain the home
Fantastic.
And then develop. So that went the first week, got snapped up by
And
an
how
investor.
much, so we're talking maybe a 350, 400 square metre block of land at the back?
Correct. Probably around about 400 because it is
400.
a battle axe there,
Yep.
450, yes. And then you'd have around about 400 at the front, the side.
And how much are you paying for land as a...
That one would go probably $870, $880 for the whole total area.
So, and then that's being cut up?
They can cut it up. It wasn't cut up. That was a total block sold as is, and that's what the development would take place. They could hold on to the home and then subdivide, or they could subdivide in years to come and demolish the home and have a different configuration of the block.
And I guess the block values at that size would be in the mid-400s.
And the rest in the
yeah.
Rossmoyne High School zone. I just sold 2 500 square metre blocks, and they went for about $585.
But you'd want to be putting a substantial home
Yes.
on that as well.
Well, you would. I mean, you wouldn't undercapitalise it. You wouldn't build anything much under $500,000-600,000.
Clearly, we've got, again, a sleeping giant, a suburb where we don't have too low a ceiling in prices. where if you do want to build a nice, beautiful home, you've got the same opportunities to do it in Bull Creek than you may be able to do in Willetton, where it's more expected or more visible.
Yes, correct. But I mean, it's all about location, location, location.
There are pockets.
There are pockets, correct. And the school zones are so important. You could build a home of the same value in the living school zone side of Bull Creek, and you wouldn't get your return because the demand isn't there. It's all about supply and demand. The demand is huge for the school zone. So you'd have to make sure, if anyone was to invest and want to get a good return, I'd always look at the school zones before they bought the land.
Well, Jenny, you've mentioned before the median house price, $730,000.
Yes.
Now we're going to spring this one on you. We do that to every number one agent every week. If you had $730,000 in your pocket right now, what would you go and buy in Bull Creek?
I'd look for a development potential block in a good location, probably the worst house in the best street. Maybe rent it out, lease it out for a few years, and then subdivide it, because that's where my money's going. I'm going to make money in the subdivision because the land is so sought after. They get snapped up very quickly.
Fantastic. Jenny, thanks a lot for coming in. I really appreciate your time. Maybe in the next few months we'll have you back in again for an update on where Bull Creek's going.
Pleasure, Trent. It was fantastic speaking with you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Perth Property Show. If you've only just joined the conversation, you can catch up by heading over to our website, perthpropertyshow.com.au, subscribing to the podcast, or joining our Facebook page. Don't forget to tune in next Monday at 7 a.m. for more expert insights, local analysis, and suburb spotlights. Happy hunting!